Hey everybody, welcome back to the For Grieving Daughter podcast. This podcast is all things about healing, growing, evolving after life after grief. And so I am excited today to be having two special guests with me, Asia and Kira. And so this episode, I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be heavy, but it's gonna be fun because our personalities, we're very powerful women with powerful stories. And this episode is about motherhood and grief, a continuation of the conversation we had last time. So I want to start off by saying October is a heavy month. It is breast cancer awareness month. It is domestic violence awareness month. It is depression awareness month. And it is infant awareness month. Infant loss awareness month. And so our community specifically has probably been affected by every last one of those things that I have named. So I want to be intentional about just mentioning, giving honor to the women who navigate that space, whether you have experienced it or you have experienced a loss as a result to it. And so I personally have been on this journey with Asia, I feel like, for a while. Because as I grew and got closer to Christ and closer to my sisters in Christ and sharing my story, Asia held me accountable for a lot of things. And I will never forget her telling me, like, yeah, you can't grieve and heal. So pick. And then Kira is just also my good sis. And I have seen her navigate grief, and not the grief of her mom, but the grief of her son. And grieving even a little bit of the repair part of the relationship with her mom, and then turning it into purpose. And so not only will she share her story, a little bit about her experience with motherhood and grief, but purpose. And then you will be able to support her her book drive and support her organization and all the wonderful things she's doing in honor of our heaven baby. So ladies, without further ado, I'm having a great day today as we're filming, so I might not tomorrow, but today is a good day. Asia, you became a mom 10 months ago.
11 months.
11 months.
Almost 12.
Big Reese, not the little one.
He's going to be one.
He is going to be one.
He is going to be one next week.
And you are expecting again.
Yes, I am.
What a life.
Tell me about it.
So Asia I've witnessed her go through major life transitions. Yeah. And Asia is so graceful. You got married. You had a baby. You're having another baby. Yeah. And what was it, 3 years ago you've experienced the loss of your mom?
4.
So how has that journey been?
I literally say this all the time. Like, I feel like currently, like, I'm spinning. It's like, wait a minute. Because not just losing my mom 4 years ago, but it was like my mom, my grandma, and then my grandfather, and then it was COVID, and then it was like that. Then it was engagement, marriage, baby, back to back, baby, baby times 2. So,
and you turned 30 in the midst of that, which I feel like
30.
I feel like turning 30 changes things.
It does.
Because I've been 35 months, and I swear my life is
30. It's like I don't care about nothing.
Yeah,
I don't care. But it's been a lot. It's been a lot to process. And it's funny because it's like there's seasons with it. There's like, there was like the blissful getting married and all that stuff, but then also navigating that without my mom. But then, I'm pregnant and I'm happy. And even though my mom's not here, I'm still really happy. But then having the baby and now realizing the realities of motherhood and now
without a mom.
And it's like, I'd never thought about this part before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been real. It's been real.
And you are now having a baby girl.
Yes.
Which I never wanted a girl. I still don't want a girl. But originally, I didn't want a girl out of trauma. Mm-hmm. Because in my mind, it was a sick thing. Like, my mom's mom died. So my grandmother died when she was 15. My mom died when I was 10. So in my head, it was just like, if I have a little girl, I'm gonna die. Like, you know, and then going through some other childhood traumas, I just felt like, give me a boy. But I realized that you can damage your boys too.
Yeah.
And so I am on the journey of, I wouldn't say repair, but I'm in a journey of accountability of some ways that I allow grief and just my own awareness to how I was showing up in motherhood impacting him's journey, and now rewriting. You know, he's 8, so having the ability to like get it right. But like on the last episode, he's just like, yeah, the holidays is whack around here. And I'm like, oh, okay. But you get everything on that list. Yeah, he don't care.
Right.
You don't make cookies with me. Like you don't let us decorate the house. Like you present because you're there for everything, but you're on your phone, or you're not engaged, or you're falling asleep, or and like they get older and you be like, well, god damn, what am I doing right?
Right.
You know? And I think it was because it's like you kind of get on autopilot in parenting. And when you don't have a mom, I feel like you kind of go into survival. You have a husband and you have a fantastic mother-in-law, but you don't have that, like, I feel like your mom, you could just drop it all at her feet.
Right. And that's the part where it's like, I'm realizing that now being a mom. Because I felt her absence when she passed, but I just kind of got through it, and it was like, I don't want to say I didn't skip a beat, but it was really like, it became like, I really was focused on my faith at the time. So it was like, okay, no, I'm getting through this because I have my faith to lean on. And not that I don't have that now, but now I'm in a totally different space. And like, okay, so I'm a mom now. And you know what actually is funny? Well, not funny, but
we make sick jokes about
this. It's a little funny.
Yeah. Like, well, she just gonna leave me. Yeah, she did. So
she did. That. And it's like a few months ago, I was it was like a week where my husband was picking up extra hours. I was sick. My baby was sick. And everybody I would ask to watch him was unavailable. And I was like for the first time, I was like, wow, I need
my
mom right now. And I had never said that like since she had passed, and it hit me real hard. But it was like almost like a wake-up call. Like, again, I always say, like, the fact that she's not here is always a reminder to me of my own purpose and my own time here. Like, if she's not here, it's like, okay, let me just get back focused, you know?
So it's funny because when my mom's death anniversary, which was the last time we shot this, I realized I don't have a concept of time, right? So I went back to therapy because I just realized that I needed to go back to therapy. And so shout out to my therapist. One day I'm gonna have her come. Not too soon though, because she reads me. But one day I'm gonna have her come. And so she's like, how was your week? And so I told her, and I had this I was so angry. Like, it was 20 years. And I feel like I'm normally, I get through it in a way where I isolate or whatever, but but I'm still, to your point, I have my faith. I know, like, okay, well, it happened for a reason and that type of thing. But I was so angry because it was like, you've been gone for 20 years. I'm 30. So you've been gone more time than I just really been really like kicking and living and independent and like, you know, all of those things, right? It was something about that put things in perspective, and I was really angry about it. And so, but I kept trying to justify it by saying, well, the things that I want to talk to her about now and the things I want to pick up the phone or pull up and say, I wouldn't have had she been here because my life would be different. So I kept trying to justify it with that. And my therapist was like, you're doing yourself such a disservice by justifying it. Just sit with your first initial thought. You're angry. Let's process that. Your needs then are different than your needs now. And I was like, all right. And so I detach myself a lot of times from the experience, and that would be my process to like move on, because I do know one thing about it. When you know you have purpose and you activate your purpose in a way, you can't waddle and stay in it for so long. And you have to have a good village around you who's like gives you that space to yell, scream, cry, kick, whatever. But then you pick it up and go. Because in the midst of me having my breakdown, it's a little girl who's in our group who we mentor with, who is like trying to get through her first college exam.
Yeah.
It's another little girl who just moved in her first apartment, and it was her mom's birthday. And this is like fresh for them. You know what I mean? So it's like, all right, cool. Like, I know my village is there for me to have my space. And so I think after your mom dies, like building that village too. But to your point, I don't know if this is your experience, it was my experience, you're still apprehensive to help.
Yeah.
Because like if you would have called me and said, Big Reese, now that baby don't like me, but I still would have came and got him and watched him.
Right.
Don't like her.
Right.
Now that baby don't like nobody. He don't like nobody. And I don't take it personal. Not too much on my son. But we apprehensive to help. You know what I mean? Like you're not like, because I've been there. Like it's people who be like the Black Achievers Awards. I didn't have a babysitter. Not always got a babysitter. I didn't have a babysitter. And I was presenting an award. So at the last minute, I'm like, I had to figure some things out. And someone gave me an option like, oh, so such could watch him. And I was like,
Right.
No, it's okay. But it's like, I know they meant well.
Yeah.
But I don't want to feel like a burden.
Yes. Yeah. Because then there's like this feeling of, well, this is my child. So I need to figure this out. But I think that's another thing, like as a new mom, realizing like, oh, wait, like you really can't do this all on your own. Like you need people around you. And that's one of my personal struggles anyway. Like just allowing people, like just letting that wall down. That already was a thing.
Ooh, before the grief. Because baby,
already a thing.
I think that was my thing before too.
That was already a thing. So I worked on that, but then it was like, okay, now
it's up in a new way.
In a new way. And it's not that I'm trying to look like I have it together. It's just like, okay, no, like this is my baby. I can figure this out. But no, you actually need to rely on people sometimes. And I think you learn that in more ways than one.
Yeah. So Kira. Kira is such a baddie.
I'm really not though.
You really is.
That's y'all.
We just talked about not putting ourselves down because I say that I look like Lil Bill sometimes. But
you really don't.
Sometimes with my haircut. But
listen, I look like ODB without this wig. So
period.
like,
I don't care. Let me tell you. And they love it here. But and they know who they are. But you are so beautiful as a person.
Oh, damn.
Like you don't meet many people whose souls are like genuine and pure. And like, I really am working in my journey on Christ and being gentle. Because to your point about being guarded, it gets to a point where I am in the safest place of my life that I have ever been. And God is like, now I'm going to put everything on you. Because you could take off the layers and you find refuge in me. So you don't have to put up the safety mechanisms, or you don't have to be like, you can be vulnerable in a new way. You can be gentle in a new way. Right. And I now desire, like my heart is like, I want to be gentle. I've always been genuine, but I want to be gentle. Like, I just want to be like sweet. I'm not. I'm walking the door like, what's up? Like, you know. And so like you just exude like your heart posture is just like, I want to serve. I want to help. I want to be
a light.
Yeah, you just a light. You just carry.
But that's how I feel about y'all. Like, no, seriously. Like, with the moment I met her, I was like,
and I didn't even know they knew each other.
Like, literally, we met one time. I was like, oh my God, I love her.
Yeah.
And then like my coworker's like, I love her too. And then I saw her at your birthday, and I was like, like love. But I want to just affirm something for you real quick. It's interesting because how I see myself or how you might see yourself is not the way like I would actually, but I see you as all of those things, you know. And, you know, I just want to say this out loud, and I know we'll get into it, but, you know, you've been a really big part of my healing and grief journey. You know, and I'll let you, I just, you know, I don't want to cry now. I'll cry later. Like I said, I'll cry in my car, but, you know, I just wanted to affirm that. So I think your heart posture is very big and very bright too, because I want to be honest, you know, I think God, or, you know, however, you know, your higher power, you know.
We believe in God over here.
Same. You know,
Jesus.
Same, you know, I just, you know, I think about everybody, and I think about, you know, God placed you in my life for a very particular reason. For real. And, you know, I remember when everything first happened, I was like, I couldn't think, right? Yeah. Like I just couldn't think. I was like in shock. I think I was just trying to focus on, I remember going home and just like, let me just fix things. Like that's my way of coping, because I've never been good at processing grief, because folks around me would grieve so hard, and I was always in my family a peacemaker. I was no, let's be happy and sing, and I had to learn multiple times throughout my life that's not reality. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you're going to have to face really, really hard things, right? And I was really good at compartmentalizing. I was really good at disassociating. You know, like, oh, that happened. Oh my gosh, but this was something I could not. It was reality. It was a hard like gut punch. And I remember you like saying, hey sis, I haven't heard from you. Are you okay? And I just want to let you know that meant the world to me, because when you go through loss and, you know, when you navigate through grief, even though you may have a village, because I don't want to speak for, I have to speak, I use my I statement, because not everyone has a village, which is so unfortunate. You know, I'm glad you know, brought up the concept, you know, with this beautiful queen here about the importance of having a strong village, especially when you have loss, especially mom loss. I could not imagine, right? That magnitude, and then welcoming new life, and then there's death, right? And at the intersection of life and death, there's faith. And so I was at the precipice of both. And so I just remember you just reaching out, just like something told you, like the spirit said. And this happened multiple times, like folks that, you know, I talked to and just was like, yo, sis, where you at? Are you okay? And I'm going to be honest, that was the hardest. There were times where I just looked at my phone and was like, I don't know how to respond. You know, I don't know what to say. What do I say, you know, to the people who have, you know, been so supportive and just loving and doting. You know, this was, you know, I've had loss before, but this was different. This, I can't even, there's a word in Portuguese called saudade, and it literally translates to, it's the feeling of grief, of loss. There's no word, because there's no real word for it. So there's no literal translation for saudade. And it's one of my favorite words, because there's no exact root for it. There's no depth, like outside of grief and loss and the magnitude of it, because you can't describe it. And, you know, I'll tell you a story. You mentioned about gender and a girl. If I'm jumping, please tell me no. But, you know, I remember, you know, I come from East Harlem, New York. If anybody knows anybody about city kids, you know, some of us are really like, you know, I'm a 9/11 baby, so I'll be like, yeah, everything is okay. You know, your guard is up, but, you know, I was always a very sensitive child. So, you know, I always doted on little animals, small animals. I was the one that picked up ants and all types of foolishness. You know, foolish. I was an aunt, very young. I was very weird child. I love bugs, but I love living things, right? I like to steward things, which was interesting because my mom wasn't a nurturer. She's a nurturer in the sense that she's gonna make sure you're fed, you're clothed. That's me. Needs are met. You know what I'm saying? Your needs gonna be met. But she's not a hugger. Not gonna hug you. Right. I'm getting to it though. Right. And that's where I needed that as a child. I was a big hugger. I was a lover. I was a, I love you type of person. And my mom wasn't that. So we struggled in that type of form. But we, it didn't really come to a head really until, I didn't really realize it, I should say, until I was pregnant. And what was interesting was I never saw myself as a mom. I'm gonna be honest, because of my own trauma, not necessarily directly towards my mom, but I was an aunt at a young age, and I was like, well, I'm comfortable being the auntie that spoils the kids and hey, go
auntie.
Home. Right. Oh, so getting there, auntie.
You still a rich auntie. I've been around you as an auntie, and you spoil BJ.
But I spoil kids, because I feel like, I don't like to call it spoiling even. I just like to call it like blessing kids, because that's what people did for me. Like my village, I had my aunt, shout out to my aunt Lorraine, my aunt Rosa, my aunt Linda. They taught me different forms of womanhood, and like where I needed that. I love you, girl. My aunties had that. Where I needed that fashionista, my Aunt Linda had, that was, that's where I got those different types of things. So I had a strong village. My grandmother, Nana, and aunt, my Nana and my abuelita Alice. So it was all encompassing. But it's interesting. I didn't know I wanted to become a mother until I became one. I found out I was pregnant a week after May 14th. And 11 days after May 14th, because I found out the day of Uvalde. And that was the tragic, mass shooting where 21 some odd kids lost their life. And I remember talking to my husband, Paulie, and I broke down sobbing, because I was like, what type of world am I going to bring this child up in? Like, this is scary, like we just had May 14th my dear friend lost his mother. He lost his mother in that. And then, fast forward, it's just like loss everywhere. It was just loss. I had a friend who lost a baby, it was just, and then my god sister died. It was just a lot of loss last year. And so carrying life, I was petrified out of my mind. I was terrified. And so, me and my husband did all the things. We made sure that, as soon as I found out, I mean, not that I was I was a terrible eater. I ate all types of garbage and fast food. But then I was like, nope, we gotta do this. No, I was that type of, I don't know if you went through that during your first. You like, no hot lunch meat, no nothing, no soda pop, no nothing. Like I went full AWOL, everything. And then I started getting really, really sick. And so what was interesting was I saw how my mom wanted to really, I think, support me, like in that motherly way, but she was fight, like it was something within her that was a struggle. And, she did. She was there. Like if I needed food, like cook, clean, like all of that. And I just think that, but for her, the emotional part of it was hard, because you got to watch your child be sick while she's carrying life. And so it was a lot of challenges. I wasn't really honest with myself as how sick I was. I ended up having to change, medical racism is real, unfortunately, and I ended up having to change OBs. And unfortunately, I had a fibroid, and the fibroid grew so big. I went from 2 centimeters to 15 by the time I lost my son. And it was kind of funny, because one day I went to work, people was like, oh my God, are you having twins? Like, what's going on? And I was like, no, it was one, and I was like, what is wrong? And, through it all, I really got to give a glow to my husband.
Shout out to Paul.
I really
Paul
do,
is a real one.
He really is. Like he bought all of these daddy books. Like, okay, swiping through, like, okay, this is what to expect, but there was nothing to prepare us for what was to come. Yeah. And so we didn't want to think that way. And I remember having this very strange dream a week before I lost Kylo. And it was one of those dreams, and when you're pregnant, you have all types of dreams, like you may have all types of dreams. And I remember this dream vividly, because I saw what he looked like, but I couldn't tell how he felt. Like he was in my arms, but I couldn't feel him. But I saw exactly how he looked. He was gorgeous. And then it was just like darkness happened, and I woke up in a cold sweat panicking. And I remember just telling Paul, if something happens to me, save him. That was the first thing that came out my mouth. I was like, if something happens to me, save him. I don't care what happens. And Paul's like, oh my God, like, what did you eat? Like, what did you watch? I'm like, no, nothing. Like, I just have this weird feeling, right? And a mother knows, right? And so, September 14th, which is your mom's anniversary. And I realized that, September 14th, I was in the hospital for the last 2 weeks. I was really sick. So the fibroid went through a process called red degeneration, which is a process where the fibroid starts to break down and it attacks itself. So it's like it's taking blood, taking nutrients, but there's a baby in there taking nutrients. So it's like one or the other. I'll spare the details because it's pretty, intense.
And most importantly, it's still a healing journey for you. It's only been a year. So don't feel like you don't have to disclose anything you don't want to.
I appreciate you, sis. I will say though, my birth story was very traumatic. And I didn't know I was laboring. And he lived and died at home. It was, I will never forget the look on my mom's face, because it's like she watched her daughter almost lose her life, give birth to her grandson on her floor, and there was nothing she could do. Or my husband, because I couldn't move. I just came home from the hospital. I was in so much pain. I couldn't even walk up the stairs. We own a multi, so we live on the second floor. He lives on the bottom, so I stayed with my mom, And it was just I just will never forget that scream. My husband as a man, like, I can't help my wife, or my son. And I remember when we found out he was a boy, I was elated. I felt that same type of maybe like, oh man, I'm gonna bring a son into this world. I'm doting over boys anyway. Like, I'm doting over all kids. I love all kids, but boys hold a special place in my heart.
Nothing like being a boy, Mom.
I did, right? And I was a rough and tumble girl. I love football. Yeah. I love soccer. I love hockey. I love all of that sports stuff. I love getting dirty. Not to say that girls can't do that, but it was just something. And I watch how my sister's sons, my nephews, just doted over them and my godson. So that's where it was like, when I lost him, it was like, that was one of the times where I can honestly say I didn't know if I was coming or going. I didn't know. It was like, all I remember was getting to the hospital. I had to have an emergency surgery. They saved my life first time. And then 6 weeks later, I had to have the fibroid out because my kidneys were failing. It was just bad. And all I kept remembering was, I spoke to God, because the surgery was supposed to go a whole different way. They was going to take my uterus because it was that bad. The fibroid was too big. And, shout out to Dr. Nde Diallo. I don't know where the camera is. I'm going to say that in the camera. And Shayna Barton, who was my doula. Those women saved my life. Black women. And when you talk about the village, your village comes in so many different forms. Yeah. This Black woman said, I come hell or high water, you will have a child. We will get through this together. It wasn't like she was a sister girl doctor. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I was so thankful for them because they spared my fertility. But I remember before going to surgery, I'm a clown. I'm a big clown. It's my way of, not really feeling certain things. My therapist get on me too. And so I remember Paul was just out of it. He's like, I don't want to lose my wife. I can't, Kara, I can't lose you. I don't know what I would do. And I was like, Paul, there's a verse in the Bible, and that's why I need to go to church. So I'm not opposed to being checked. I'm not opposed to being checked. I'm coming to the rock. I'm coming to get saved. But there's a verse that, it's a song, and it says, it was all right with my soul. It's all right with my soul. And I felt that. Like, I felt this like this sharp pain in my chest. Peace.
Yeah.
Because I said, whether this surgery, I had gone through a lot of surgery. I lost a lot of blood. I said, no matter what happens, it's all right with me. Whether I'm here or I'm with my father, my maker, you know, back home, I'm okay. And I've never felt that way before. And I was like, but deep down, I knew I was going to make it out of that surgery. I made it out of surgery. I made it out with my uterus, with my fertility. I healed 6 months earlier than I was supposed to. But I'd be lying. And now that we passed the 1 year, I'd be lying if I didn't say it wasn't a struggle. You know, I had to dig really deep within myself, because one of the things that I learned is when you go through a traumatic loss, it brings upon other forms of grief that I didn't even know existed or was dealing with. I still realized I didn't heal from the loss of my grandparents. I went through a really traumatic situation at a former employer. I was still grieving that. You know, I was grieving, you know, so many different losses that I just didn't think were affecting me. I just, man, screw it and move on. But that, you know, it was all hit me at one time. And then, you know, with me and my mom, it was more of, I just need a hug. I just need a hug.
And now you were able to articulate that.
Yeah, I think I had to wait a long time. You know, my therapist, you know, she's an amazing Black woman, and
we have the same therapist?
Probably.
Her name Nicole?
Jasmine.
Oh. Right. Shout out to Nicole and
Jasmine Thorpe. Jasmine Thorpe therapist. Jasmine so good.
Nicole too. I was about to say now.
Listen,
Nicole did.
I'm telling you. But shout out to them, because and you know, therapy, you know, people think therapy is a terrible thing. No, it's actually, I feel like God ordains people to minister through, you know, to take those things, because a lot of nobody is perfect. Everybody's fighting something. You know what I'm saying? Lord knows I am. And so, you know, she described grief to me like a boulder. Grief is like a big boulder, a big rock, and it's hard and it's solid. And when you first go through something, that rock it feels like it's on your chest, but you have a village of people that have sandpaper. Some of them have tough grit, 40 grit. I love working with tools. So you have tough sand grit paper. They're doing it by hand. Somebody's on the other side shaving it down with a big old tool, and you're doing it too. You're doing the work, and then eventually what starts to happen, that boulder gets smaller and smaller, but it never goes away. Maybe it's not on your chest, but maybe you can hold it now. So what she was essentially saying was, you navigate as you develop. You never get over grief. You never get under it. You have to go through it. And you have to lean in on your community and your village to be able to help you shave it down. But you have to do the inner work too.
So when we talk about purpose, we talk about activating purpose that's already there and sharpening it, or we talk about birthing something. And so I truly believe, I think this in general, and I know you can speak on this, like women, when you have a baby, you birth something spiritually too. It's not even just the natural, tangible, yes, the baby, but there is something to birth. But for you, I feel like the purpose was already in you to do the books, to do the writing. And so now, to honor the legacy of our baby, you created a book drive and people can donate. And so tell us more.
Thank you. So first off, thank you for that. And I love that you say our baby, because he really is like, I feel like everyone's baby. So, you know, I started Native Pens Collaborative Publishing, LLC, back in 2019. It's actually, the 26 will make 4 years, but soon to be 5. I'm gonna do something big for the 5th year. But the first book that come out of that was You Go Girl. And the reason why I started Native Pens is actually the company is a play off of Native Tongues, which was my favorite rap collaborative, comprised of like Queen Latifah and, you know, De La Soul, you know, all of these great lyricists. And the reason why I wanted it to be Native Pens, because one of the things about Native Tongues was that they were so rooted in culture. You know, I worked in and around education for a couple of years. And one of the things that always troubled me was that there wasn't access, not that there wasn't, but there wasn't access to culturally relevant literature. And like, you know, either you have a character who's a Black protagonist who's written by a non-person, like a non-POC or non-BIPOC person, or you have like like, authors of color who don't get that same type of like shine and light. So I said, it actually started as a way for me to write books and tell the stories that I wanted to tell about my community and culture from a level of authenticity. But then I said, you know what, there's other people out there who want to tell their stories too and might need some assistance. So I started doing some coaching, book coaching on the side, some ghostwriting to help, some folks get started on that. And it's been a blessing. But, first book was You Go Girl, and then Peace King. And I'll tell you, Peace King was actually, it was a little bit more, it was harder to write because again, I identify as a woman, I identify as, as a girl, and I knew like exactly. So You Go Girl, I ain't gonna front. I wrote that on a bus. Like I was on my way to New York City I can't remember 4 years ago, and I was literally like, "Oh, here's a story. Let me write it out." Like I always keep a notepad everywhere I go. I always keep a notepad to write a story. So I wrote it out, and then Peace King, I was a little bit more intentional because I have nephews, I have godsons. Your kids are my kids. You know what I'm saying? Like I always say that the village kids, we all have to steward everyone's children in the village, and I wanted to really write if I were writing to my son, like my future son. And so when Peace King actually was done months before I was pregnant, it was actually done the year before, so that would have been 21. But something was like, this ain't the time to publish it, give it some time, Then I got pregnant. And then I lost Kylo. And then after I had my second surgery, I was like, oh yeah, I gotta get this book out. Like I don't have the time. There's children out here who need these words. But I would be lying to you if I didn't say that was the hardest book to publish. That was the hardest one. But I'm glad I did because it was my way. So I switched some things at the last minute. I called my illustrator. She had been on my pregnancy journey. Like I didn't really tell folks until my 3rd month, because I was so scared. And so like, breaking that news to her, she called me immediately, and she's in Thailand. I've been working with her for years. She called me sobbing, and we're crying on the other side of the world together. Like it was just like, and she was like, I got something for you. So she actually in Peace King, there's an image in there of a mother with an afro holding a baby, and she said, I want that to be reminiscent of, Black motherhood. This is a non-Black woman, right? But she said, I researched this. I really want this to be, reminiscent of Black motherhood. And so it was supposed to be a depiction of me holding Kylo. And I don't tell people that because it's so hard to even conceptualize. So that was one part of it. But then I'll tell you, Baby Past the Peas, I actually wrote that book while I was in the hospital. So I remember, and I want to shout out Children's Hospital because I know
Oshai Foundation,
Oshai Children's Hospital. The Oshai Children's Hospital really took really good care of me, and and I'll get into the drive in this particular book right here. I don't know. But this particular book and why this book actually, spurred the book drive. And so I remember after my surgery, I had to stay in the hospital a couple of days. My mind was just like everywhere. I was just like so sad, and I was yearning for my grandmothers. I lost both of my grandmothers. One when I was literally right when I finished my master's program. So like 2 months after I finished my master's program, I lost my grandmother. Lita, Grandma Alice. And then I lost my Nana right before I went to college. So it was interesting like how their losses, happen and when they happen. But these women were old school grandmas. Like they were, like you said, like they were not TikTok grandmas. They were not Bernice Burgos grandmas. Those are great grandmas. Trust me, they're beautiful grandmas. They're beautiful grandmas. I hope to look like a Bernice Burgos one day, and have that type of strength and be like, really, but, my grandmas were old, Puerto Rican, Boricua, and Southern black grandmothers.
They wore muumuus.
They wore muumuus. The bills was paid. They wasn't playing, with the mess. They had a strict. They were strict.
They fried chicken in a bag.
In a bag. It was salt and pepper, and it was. I'm telling you, like vibes. And I learned to cook from these women. So black women from that time didn't measure jack. You understand? Mm-hmm. Like nothing. It was, and you had to figure it out. So I was a very observant kid. I stayed in the kitchen. And so I remember this older nurse, her name was Betty. Betty came in and she smelled so good. She smelled like peach cobbler. And I was like starving. I really couldn't eat certain things. So I was like, ooh, this is the story right here. So I was talking to her. We talked, the nurses were great. And she talked about how, when you get out of this on the other side, you got to eat good, make sure you get, eat all the Southern food, eat all the good soul food and, whatever you want to eat. And so I called Paul. I was like, yo, where's my notebook? Like, I need my notebook. He was like, oh, it's in your bag. I asked the nurse to get it. And I just started writing Baby Pass the Peas. And one of the things about my books that I try to continue to do as I write, they're all rhyme scheme books. There's Jilton rhyming. There's, AAVE in my books. I say things like talking and all of that stuff, because those are things that were, when I thought about having a child, I wanted them to walk into their greatness as they were. I didn't want them to perform. I didn't want them to feel like they couldn't show up as authentically as themselves. And so I said, I have to write my stories the same way. And so that's what birthed this company. And, the book drive actually came about because when I was in the hospital, whenever you have a loss, a bereavement loss, they call it, or perinatal loss. That's what I had. Stillbirth. Children's Hospital gives you a bereavement box, and inside the box are your baby's footprints. They're, like a life certificate, a life and death certificate, blankets, little things. But they always put a book in there. And so this other woman started a foundation after she lost her son that gave like a comforting book. And so this book was called You Are My I Love You by Marianne Kumaso Love. And it's such a beautiful book. And, my husband got to read it to Kylo as well as Peace King. Actually, Kylo was the first one to ever hear, in the spiritual sense, Peace King before anybody else. So, this book really does mean a lot to me for so many different reasons. And it's in his memorial chest. We have it on his mantle. And I said, you know what? I want to give back to the place that gave me so much when I had nothing, when I felt I lost everything. Like I said, I give up my car, my house, whatever worldly possession I have, if it meant he was still here. Mm-hmm. And because that's not the case, I believe in the saying, to whom much has been given, much is required. Mm-hmm. And so shout out to Crystal. Miss Crystal was my upper bound director in East Harlem, New York. So shout out to Boys and Girls Harbor. And she always ingrained that in us. So that's why, I went to a service-oriented high school. So that service was my core. So writing is a way to give back in the, I think, the educational sense, but this project is to give back just in general. So what we started to do was I partnered with Alice Ever After Books. If you're not familiar, we love Alice Ever After.
We do. Megan Go shop Howe. There.
Yo, shout out to Megan Howe. Megan is different, man. Like Megan, actually was a teacher, taught in, urban education settings. And she said, you know what? I want to create a bookstore that's a community bookstore. And if you walk in that bookstore, you will find every single representation of a child, of a family. She has books for all walks of life, and she's very intentional. Like I put her up against any librarian, she'll knock them out the park. Mm-hmm. And so she's been a big part of my healing journey, in so many different ways. And I went to her and I was like, hey, I want to do a book drive, but the way the book drive works is if you buy a book, right, you go there, the books have to be new because of OSHA health regulations. We're in still post-COVID, as you mentioned, and so all the books have to be new. But shout out to our newest Maston councilwoman, Ms. Zanetta Everhart, very much love of my life.
We love you, girl.
We love you, Zanetta, and thank you, Zanetta, for all you do. She's a real queen. I remember after May 14th, her and her amazing son, he's a hero, started Zanetta and Zaire's book club. So my book, Desiree Williams' book, who's amazing. She writes the Brilliant Brown Baby series. That's like one of my favorite series of books. I love her books. Got picked up in, Zanetta and Zaire's book club. And, we were, got to promote it, make sure. And so I reached out to her just, I was like, hey, Zanetta, I was just asking her, like, hey, do you want to promote this and pick some books from the book club? Because then she has a great selection of books. She was like, I will give you books and I will match. So however many books you raise, I will match a book. And I literally broke down in tears. I was like, are you serious? Like, are you going to do that? Like, talk about a village and a community of loving, like, people who just come together. So there's so many ways you could donate. Just first and foremost, all of the proceeds. This is separate than the Oshai Children's Foundation. I learned that the hard way. This is like really the Children's Hospital. But I want to shout out Claire from the Children's Hospital. She's been absolutely amazing to work with. As soon as I emailed them, they were like, we got you. So you could donate, of course. You could go to Alice Ever After Books. You could purchase a book there. I highly encourage it. It's right across the street from the zoo, which is a great, you go on a trip, go to the zoo and get you some books. Or you could order off of bookshop.org. I could send the links out, ahead of time, and I'll make sure you get that. There's a ton of books on there. They were curated, especially with a couple of different authors. There's books, for members of the Jewish community. There's books that celebrate Diwali. There's books that celebrate, Kwanzaa. There's books that celebrate everything. As you can see here on this table, we have books that are centering children of color characters. That was really intentional and really important. Oshai Children's Hospital not only services Erie County, but also Niagara County, as well as Genesee, which is Rochester. So we had to think about the diverse array of people that these books are going to go to. So if we have a baby who is born, Hindi, there is a book for that baby when they are welcome into this world. And it's really to increase literacy access too. Unfortunately, in a lot of major cities, if you look at Buffalo being one of the most racially segregated, also in terms of not only race, but also socioeconomics, access to books is not a thing. And I also want to this is a shame, I'm not ashamed. This is not a shameless plug, but this is a plug. I want to shout out Jillian Hainsworth too, because the work that she's doing with the libraries and the book club, I got to work with her on that's my sister. I will,
and Black Boys can read too.
Black Boys read too. Those are my girls, shout out to those queens. Like, everyone who is doing stuff on the ground for education and literacy for our children, thank you. If I did not name you, I just want to say thank you, because it really does make a difference. A child's life trajectory is really determined by education, particularly literacy. Literacy is the anchor for everything. You could be good at math, you could be good at science, but if you cannot read, you will not succeed. That is not to be corny. That is just the truth.
But let me say, shout out to Read to Succeed too. I am a proud board member. Proud board member of Read to Succeed.
Period.
And amazing, incredible work that we are doing over there. And I even thinking about the Oshai Foundation, like, they do a lot in terms of health equity.
Yes.
And just racial equity, and thinking about the climate and where we live, and where, there's not a lot of foundations who do real work. There's a lot of foundations who act like they do the work, but there's not a lot of foundations who do the real work to really impact our community.
And that's why, like to that point, Shai, I will always fight for Oshai. Yeah. They really, the hospital especially, like, I remember the doctors, they grieved with us. Like, like, it wasn't just like, oh, well, I'm so sorry. It was, this, we hate that this happened, and we are here for you. Like, and it came from a place of authenticity. I felt so safe there, and again, in the midst of everything. So, the book drive is going to go until the 31st, so Halloween. We're just on a run now, a tour, and just like, hey, this is what we're doing. And the response has been really great. Like, this one woman from, she's originally from Japan, but she lives in Boston, found out about it through someone else who shared it. And she's also a lost mom. And she reached out to me, donated like 20 books, and just said, hey, I understand, I get it. And so I'm just want to say thank you to everyone who has donated, even if it's just a share, because I know it's rough out here. Inflation is real. So anything that anyone can, a tomato is like $20 now. I can't believe it. But anything that anyone can give, like even as I know. They are. I'm so tired of grab behind groceries, but the fact that folks are really digging into their budget to like support this cause. Shy's tired of me, man.
I'm holding what I gotta say. My girl said tomatoes is $20.
$20. I want to eat right, but
because she's not lying.
Yeah, better get to growing.
Burger King be Burger Kinging right now because I can afford. No, I'm just kidding. But no, for seriousness, I'm just grateful.
In that case, shout out to Pete Buffalo.
Yes,
for all the incredible work that she is doing. Drea, we love you. Drea is a huge supporter for Grieving Daughters.
I love Drea Denner.
Yes,
I went to her beautiful the Requiem of Death, of reimagining Black death. Just absolutely phenomenal. But I just want to say, thank you to everyone who has supported me on this journey. Like I said, I have a responsibility now to give back. And I want to also affirm one more person too. Her name is Corinne Jackson. She's my best friend. She's also a lost mom. And she's also a big part of the reason why I'm still here today. Because again, there was days where I would wake up like, I'm great, I'm good. And I wasn't.
And it smack you right in the middle of the day.
Last night, I was watching, like I said, I'm an animal person. I love Shark Week. I'm a nerd. I will watch all that foolishness. And then, there was a Black woman and she was on vacation and she got to do the dolphin excursion. And she wasn't pregnant, but she was breastfeeding. So the dolphin kept like signaling, no. And that's the dolphin's way of saying this person is a vulnerable person. I don't want to harm them. And he kept nuzzling her stomach. And when I was pregnant, I had that same experience. I was 4 months pregnant in the Dominican with my best friend. We were there for her birthday and we did the dolphin excursion. And I never forget my dolphin, Chuga, her name was Chuga, which I think was like pork chop. It translates to pork chop. But she kept circling my stomach and she was like nuzzling my stomach. Come to find out, Chuga just had a baby. Wow. She had a pup. And so I literally I was having a great day and I just burst into tears because it just reminded me. So, I think at this juncture, where I'm at in my journey, I'm still on it, very much on that journey.
Very fresh.
People see you and they're like, oh, you doing so well. I'm like, I'm a mess, man. Like, I'm still trying to figure out, my life. But I know with this book drive, it was a way to, one, give back to the community, give back to the babies who are physically here on this earth because, again, my son's in heaven. And I want to ensure that for the kids who are here, physically here, that they have access to, they start their journey with a book. My son's journey ended with a book. I want babies to begin their journey with a book. And so, it's a life's calling. I know God has his hand on me. He hasn't let go yet. And I'm grateful for that. I really am.
Yeah, that's it. He got his hand on us. Because, boy, this journey is ghetto. And if you ain't doing it with God, Jesus, to be specific, I pray you choose to. Because I could not have done it. Like, I literally, man. And so we wrapping up, but one word I always say, what's one thing your mom taught you that you want to tell somebody else? So just one thing, one sentence, one thing, because that's your way of giving what she gave you to somebody else.
One thing. Okay. One thing. My mom was big on words. And she taught me to always be mindful of what you say because you can never take it back. And that has stuck with me my whole life, you know, in good and bad ways, because maybe sometimes I was a
practice
little
that.
quiet, but also it's the truth, you know, like I think it helps you to be mindful of just others in general, completely.
And operating out of emotional intelligence.
Yeah, like
A
be
wise
mindful of
woman
what you
builds up
say,
her home.
right? Be mindful of what you say. You cannot take it back. So be careful with your words because they have power. You want to be mindful. Like she wouldn't let us say things like, you're stupid. Or you know, she would never let us say stuff like that. We would get in trouble for that. Because don't say that over yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I grew up with that, and I think that's a good thing to take away.
Well, y'all, this is probably my favorite episode yet. Don't let my son hear that though. Peace King is the book we were referencing. And I want y'all to donate the book drive.
Yes.
That's
Beautiful.
Thank you, ladies.
So thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Can I give you a hug?
This is what beauty looks like.
No, I'm so happy for her. She's a really a dope person, man. And so are you, Shy.
So are you.
Thank you.
And I ain't cried. That's why I was having a good day. Because I would have been in here bawling.
It's okay to cry. But just know, seriously, like what you're doing. I've been following you for a while, sis. I see you at the door.
Stop
and
saying
so,
you follow me. We doing life together.
I know, but you know what I mean?
That.
Like
I be following you. Like, girl, just do life with me.
I do. Well, I've been doing life with you for a while. You right. I appreciate that check. And, I appreciate everything you do in this community. Like, this place is a better place because of you. And what you're doing for grieving daughters is just remarkable. So,
yes.
Oof.
It needed. It's needed.
And cut, because I'm a cry.
Get it on camera now. Look, she's like, I'm gonna watch yourself. It's true. You are love shy.
Okay. We love you. Thank you, y'all.
Thank you.
This is good.
It was good.
This was
Jamil,
good.
you tired of us? Okay.
I know. He's like, I want to go home. I was like,
Jamil, like, y'all got me working late.